Namaskar. Over the last many sessions, we have learned what the 36 tattvas are in Tantra. Let me now summarize these 36 tattvas and show how they relate to each other. I shall try to narrate this interrelationship in the form of a story, because a story format will help us to understand and remember the relationship much easier. Once upon a time, which means a very long time ago, there existed only pure consciousness. Our story begins at least 13 to 16 billion years ago. That is at least 16,000 million years ago. At that time, there was no earth, no sun, no moon, no time, no darkness, no light, no universe, no objects, nothing. There was only one existence then. A powerful field of pure consciousness called Parasambit. Parasambit had no body and had no mind. Therefore, it is even more accurate to say that Parasambit was a personality rather than a person. Parasambit was an invisible existence. Even if there were any eyes present to see Parasambit, there was no one else present at that time to look at Parasambit anyway. Parasambit had the supreme power of its pure consciousness, an eternal personality, a personality capable of pervading everything, a personality that is not subject to any change, a personality with omniscient power, an intense presence of pure consciousness with its omniscient power. That was Parasambit. Parasambit was neither male nor female. Parasambit had the omniscient power of willpower, knowledge power and action power to decide anything and to create what was desired in a matter of seconds. Imagine for a moment that you close your eyes and imagine that you have no body, no mind, and there is nothing around you. You have no memories, you have no thoughts. Parasambit was almost in that condition. Parasambit had another name, which is Parabrahman. Once Parasambit wanted to have a companion. Having the omniscient power of will, knowledge, action, Parasambit instantly reflected the knowledge power and action power as if in a mirror, separating himself from these powers and transforming these powers into another separate entity. The name of the second entity thus formed through reflection is called Shakti or Shakti Devi. That is, the pure consciousness of Parasambit and the immense power of consciousness were both hitherto one, now became two. As pure consciousness on one hand and the power of consciousness on the other. The former is called Lord Shiva and the later is called Shakti. Shiva means light. This might be reminiscent of the biblical story that Eve was created from the rib of Adam, isn't it? Lord Shiva is an immensely conscious and omniscient being. He can therefore see, perceive, visualize, imagine and know anything and everything. But Lord Shiva does not undertake actions on his own, because Lord Shiva has already reflected and bestowed all his power of knowledge and power of action to Goddess Shakti. Goddess Shakti carries out all actions for Lord Shiva, since Goddess Shakti is the action power of Lord Shiva. Goddess Shakti cannot see, perceive or visualize, but together they can visualize, know and create anything. Since Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti were one and the same at one time, there is a magical bond between the two. There is an attraction between them. What was united once is now separated into two, but they were always together and function in unison. By the way, stories apart, this is the reason why the same attraction still exists between man and woman on earth today. Gender differentiation came into existence for the first time when Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti came into existence. Lord Shiva is the directive force, hence he is the principle of the masculine gender. Goddess Shakti is the principle of the feminine gender, because she is the executive or the creative force that works in tandem with the directive force received from the masculine principle Shiva. We should not mix up the principles of gender with male-female physical bodies. The directive force of willpower and the power of visualization is the masculine gender in humans, which will be there both in male and female bodies. Let us now return back to our story. Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti have 3 children. The first son is Sadashiva, and Sadashiva inherited the power of knowledge and power of action both in equal measures from Goddess Shakti. The second son is Ishwar. Ishwar inherited more of the power of action than the power of knowledge from Goddess Shakti. The third son is Shuddha Vidya. Shuddha Vidya received more of the power of knowledge than the power of action from Goddess Shakti. Thus, the divine family of Lord Shiva, Goddess Shakti, and 3 children was established. It is these 3 sons who are commonly known as Ishwaras in India for long time now. All 5 of them are bodies of light. Thus, the 5 great powers live together in a blissful palace of light called Anandaloka, which is also made of light. While thus living, Lord Shiva had a wish to enact a great grand play. The story and the direction of the play are all by Shivadevan himself. He needed millions of actors to enact this great play. He needed a huge stage and other paraphernalia which he asked Goddess Shakti to provide. Lord Shiva promised Goddess Shakti that he could reflect and create copies of his own consciousness into millions of actors and other support systems required for enacting the great play. He called these copies of himself as Atmas or souls. Goddess Shakti agreed to provide the huge stage, all required costumes for the souls, together with all required sound, lighting and special effects according to the instructions received from Lord Shiva. Since all the souls who are sent as actors have the same consciousness of Lord Shiva, every soul will have the highest consciousness equal to that of Shiva. Realizing that a drama would not be possible if all-knowing actors act in the drama, Lord Shiva had specifically arranged for Goddess Shakti to scale down the awareness of all the souls on the stage. Souls can be said as the reflected units of Shiva consciousness arriving on the stage to enact the drama of life. It is not enough that the higher Shiva consciousness of an actor soul is diminished and brought down to near ignorance, but there should also be additionally given their mind, intellect and egos too, so that they can act seemingly independently and as individuals, interacting with one another and seemingly taking their own decisions. Only then can the actors interact with each other, creating emotions in the drama. At the behest of Lord Shiva, Goddess Shakti first created a huge stage with her magical Maya powers and called the stage the Prakriti. The play is to be enacted on this enormous stage. As soon as the souls reach the stage, due to the special powers of the 6 kinds of Maya, the unlimited Shiva state of consciousness of the souls become the extremely limited and trivial Purusha state of consciousness. Consequently, the souls will even forget that they have indeed the unlimited Shiva state of consciousness hidden and covered in themselves. Moreover, these souls will lose the omnipresence of Shiva consciousness and they become bound by space-time restrictions. The souls will no longer be omnipresent. They can be only in one place at a time. Haggard by repeated emotional beatings, their mindset also changes. Losing their power of discrimination, the actors desire personal benefits for the work done in the play as an actor. Thus, they bring difficulties to their own acting on the stage. The souls will lose their omniscience and will have only very limited knowledge. It is this ignorance that makes their play emotional and brings in suffering for themselves. After the stage Prakriti was created, using the Maya Shakti, Goddess Shakti created a common delicate garment made of 8 types of yarns of energy molecules called Puryashtaka. The garment is what the souls in the play have to wear. there are different sizes of the garment, both large and small. As soon as the souls arrive on the stage, all the souls will wear Puryashtakam. With that, they become living souls holding a mind, intellect and ego, which gives them a sense of separate existence. Their play begins with interactions with each other. The result of these interactions bring emotions in the actor's mind. Since the awareness and knowledge of the souls are low, the drama becomes more and more emotional and often conflicts arises. Due to the special effect of the stage, all the actors on the stage, including the stage itself, will become subject to any one of the three types of qualities all the time. These three qualities are of Sattva-guna, Rajo-guna and Tamo-guna, which will be inflicting the nature of everything on the stage at random. Thus, the play gets thickened and becomes emotion-filled. However, Goddess Shakti will occasionally show the actors the clues about their original blissful divine family in Anandaloka, waiting for their returning home. She will try to remind the actors of their need to return home. Some actors do recognize these clues and they begin to act cautiously and consciously, taking steps to return to their original divine family from where they had started. Sadashiva will bless and grace such actors and help them to return to their original home. Sadashiva is responsible for the act of blessing and giving the grace to bring the actors back home. Some other actors, getting more and more emotional, get over-involved in the play and start enacting their own mini plays within the main play and start drifting and moving further away from the blissful home. Such deviating actors will move on to perform on another specially built second stage on the other side of the Prakriti, the larger stage. But the actors will move on to the second stage only after wearing an overcoat prepared by Goddess Shakti called Panjabhutas. The second son, Ishvara, is given the responsibility of overseeing such shifting of the stages. The third son, Suthavidya, is in charge of creation, maintenance and folding back of these stages when the play is eventually over. The grand play still continues even to date. The drama that had started is still going on. All of us, without even realizing who we are, have moved far, far away from our original blissful home as we are totally engaged in our own mini dramas within the drama. There is no doubt that we, the actors, have to perform the grand play very well. Then we should take off our Panjabhutas and our Puryashtakas and return to our original home with the assistance of Sadashiva. It is this process that Tantra will help us by giving us the knowledge of the 36 principles and then showing the route map to return home. The canvas of Tantra is extremely large. The great 6 philosophies of India are some of the most significant contributions of ancient India to the world. The 6 philosophies are Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Samkhya, Yoga, Mimamsa and Advaita. All these 6 philosophies have its tantric origin. We must recognize that overcoming human sufferings was the goal of all the 6 philosophies of India alike. All of them had a very practical goal of how to overcome the pain and suffering of human life. Moreover, the Nyaya philosophy covers 16 major topics on how to accurately define the investigative goals, how to investigate, how to debate rationally, how to justify and establish theories and postulations, and so on and so forth. All the philosophies of India are formed accordingly. All of these 6 philosophies speak in one voice about the nature of the external world and about the external world's relationship with us individuals, about the ultimate truth and about ending the human pain and suffering by understanding these factors and integrating them in our ways of living. Apart from this, all Indian philosophies equally agree that objects exist in 2 ways. That which is visible to us and that which is not visible to us. How many people know that the atomic structure was one of the 7 subjects established by Kanada, the sage Kanada, in his Vaisheshika philosophy. The Sanskrit name Kanam for the atom came from the name Kanadan. In ancient Indian philosophy, a concept or postulation was usually accepted after 8 or 10 generations of debate. Today's scientific inventions, on the other hand, are only peer-reviewed and debated for a few years. Therefore, all these philosophies deserve very serious study and consideration. To get a general appreciation of the major Indian philosophies, Dr. Pandit Rajmani Trigunet's book, 7 Systems of Indian Philosophy, will be extremely helpful. The book beautifully summarizes 7 philosophies, including the first 6 philosophies as well as Buddhism. If you now try to understand these 36 principles once again, with the details of the story in mind, you will definitely understand it better. Realizing this, we will be able to face and overcome the pain and suffering of our life more effectively. In the next 3 sessions or so, we will try to understand more about our mind in general, about our soul, about the law of karma, and about rebirth. The mind is our tool par excellence, but it is the same mind that causes us difficulties too. Once we understand what the mind is and learn to use the mind skillfully, we can act well in the grand play and return home quickly without creating any more of our own mini plays within the grand play. When we understand this, a new sense of direction and efficiency will definitely come to our life. It will surely come. All the rest in the following sessions. Thank you and namaskar.